rock and stone miners. I'm your host, Get Good Fox, and welcome to a strategy guide for deep dives and elite deep dives for the January 26th rotation. Because remember, although the deep dives do change every Thursday, they are the same experience for everyone one Thursday until the next, meaning the objectives are the same, and if there's any strange and unique enemies that are not like a random wave, they're going to be the same too. So I'll be in there doing the homework for you. I'll tell you what the objectives are, as well as any unique enemies I encountered along the way, as well as tips, tricks, and strategies that I use to overcome them. If you want to see this live when I record it, check me out on Thursdays, where I will be grinding away on the deep dives. Otherwise, check back on YouTube on the following day, Friday, for the strategy guide. We'll do the deep dive first, then the elite deep dive, so let's go ahead and get started. Our deep dive takes us into the Azure Weld, and Mission 1 will have a difficulty of Hazard 3. You'll be expected to collect 250 morkite, and you'll need to kill one dreadnought. There is a warning for a rival presence as well. Going through the mission, I immediately found a golden loot bug, not deadly, but worth knowing. After that, my team found the boss, which turned out to be the Dreadnought twins, the Lacerator and the Arbalest. I used what I call the sludge combo, which is the sludge pump with the wave cooker using the perk Contagion Transmitter, which allows you to use it on a sludged enemy to give them neurotoxin. The speed slowdown from both the sludge and the neurotoxin brings bosses down to a crawl, making them extremely vulnerable. An easy tip on the twins is to try to keep their health about the same, because when they heal, the one with lower health catches up to the one with higher health, meaning if their health are nearly identical, they'll barely heal anything at all. Sometime later, I encountered a Huli Hoarder, or...
Okay, I got into the wall.
Oh no, where's the Huli Hoarder? I wasn't ready. Perhaps my friend did. I heard it, but we weren't in position to do anything about it. I was near the anti-gravity plants in a pit, but it does wander around, so you might not encounter it literally right here. We encountered a lone spitball infector. Oh, keep in mind as well that I launched with a 2-man party, so there may be additional enemies if you're in a 3 or 4-man party, but the spitball infector, dangerous if it hits you, but also quite fragile. Just gun it down and it'll go down quickly. As far as the rival tech went, we did find a turret controller that had at least one turret attached to it, a repulsion turret. However, it was hacked so quickly that I didn't really get to see what else was on it. We also were hounded by a few patrol bots here and there, not particularly dangerous threats, but once again, if you're playing with more dwarves, you may find that there are even more enemies than this. But then we moved into the second mission, bumping the difficulty up to Hazard 3.5. The objectives are to kill 2 dreadnoughts and repair 2 mini mules. Now, because we have to repair and not salvage the mini mules, we just have to fix them up. We don't have to go through the full drop pod recovery process. In addition to that, there is an anomaly active, which is critical weakness, meaning any of your attacks on the weak points of an enemy do a whole lot more. The first thing that happened is that we encountered our first boss, a standard Glyphid Dreadnought, which was easily defeated because the sludge combo my driller had slowed it to a crawl and we were just able to shoot it to pieces. Then we encountered a Nemesis breeder. Once again, my driller came in great handy here as the microwave, the wave cooker, defeats the swarming enemies instantly and with perfect precision. In the same room as the breeder was a spitball infector, dangerous if it hits you, but easily dispatched. The last thing of note was a room that contained 2 more Nemesis breeders, and then eventually a bulk detonator showed up as well. The Nemesis breeders easily thinned out using the wave cooker to destroy all of its little spawnlings, and the bulk detonator, well, it's a boss-like enemy, so the sludge combo slowed it to a crawl, and then we shot it apart. A word of caution, however, just because I encountered the bulk detonator here, I don't know if that means you will always encounter it in this room. It did seem like a random spawn, meaning you might encounter it earlier or later, but the odds are really good that you too will face a bulk detonator at least at some point in time on this mission. Oh yeah, and I should probably mention that the second of the Dreadnought bosses was a Hive Guard. Easy to forget though when the sludge combo makes it so slow that it's really hardly a threat at all. And finally, we moved into the third mission of the deep dive. The difficulty stays the same at 3.5. Your objectives will be to salvage 2 mules. Note the word salvage. That does mean you'll have to go through the whole shenanigans of getting the mules and salvaging the full drop pod, including both of the defenses. You'll also need to collect 150 morkite while you're down there, and there is a warning for a swarmageddon, meaning you will be, throughout the entire experience, constantly hounded by respawning packs of swarmlings. Fortunately, since I was a driller, I could either just use my drills on them, I could use the wave cooker on them, or even just pick them down with my melee. Aside from that, though, there wasn't really anything remarkable to say about this particular objective, other than perhaps that a lot of the morkite was in the room with the drop pod. So if you can't find it, light up the roof, and you may find some of the morkite hiding high up. Alright though, so let's move on into the Elite Deep Dive, which is going to be taking place in the sand-blasted corridors. So be ready for sandstorms and jets of blowing sand that can move you around. Mission 1 is going to be difficulty hazard 4.5, and your objectives are to kill 2 dreadnoughts and repair 2 mini mules. Take note that you just have to repair the mini mules, you don't have to go through the full process of repairing the downed drop pod. There's 2 special effects going on, a warning of rival presence and the anomaly critical weakness, which means shots to enemy weak points do even more damage. Alright, so right off the bat, there was a nemesis. Now, when I say that, it actually attacked at different stages of the level, because I did not beat the Elite Deep Dive in one try. Sometimes it attacked in the beginning, sometimes it attacked later on, but you could get a nemesis right off the bat. That said, as long as you have an opportunity to shoot at it and run away, it's going to die pretty fast, because the critical weakness is going to just do a ton of damage to it. Now, in the run that we succeeded on, the first thing we did was go into this massive chasm visible right from the beginning of the level. I'm going to call this the mini mule room because it's a big chasm, a big drop down, and both of the mini mules are there. The catch is that it is absolutely reinforced with an extensive turret grid with a turret controller there. As I descended down, I was attacked both by patrol bots and by glyphids, and the way I dealt with it was by using the Control-E command to set a permanent waypoint. I put it on the turret controller and then dug underground and created a tunnel under the turrets to the turret controller and hacked it from underground in order to skip all of that nonsense. After that, in my successful run, the nemesis attacked, but as I said, critical weakness meant we gunned it down surprisingly easily. While you begin repairing the mules, expect massive attacks. One attack coming in to stop you from getting each of the mules, and probably also a swarm. The fighting was pretty extensive down there. Tons and tons of enemies. Afterwards, we headed over to the nearest boss cocoon, which contained a Dreadnought Hive Guard, and unfortunately I did not have the driller this time around as I switched to scout, so we did not have access to the devastating sludge microwave combo that would easily have defeated this Hive Guard. Unfortunately, we did have to fight it the old-fashioned way. My main tip, if you have to just kind of gun it down without any crowd control, is get it ready to be damaged, like knock down all of its organs to reveal its weak point, but don't do it until at least one of you is ready to actually do some damage. Otherwise, you risk exposing it to damage and no one is available to do anything, and you waste a lot of time and ammo. Finally, we went to the second of the cocoons, which contained a standard glyphid dreadnought. Once again, we did not have the devastating sludge combo that would have allowed us to defeat it easily, so we had to fight it the old-fashioned way, which once again, we would weaken its armor, and then when the armor is about to break, we would hold off until at least one of us was ready to actually have a good angle and do some real damage. While fighting it, we were interrupted by rivals. A swarm of rival shredders attacked. I don't know if that is completely random. You may not have that experience, but just be ready in case it does happen. And now, my last piece of advice before you move on to Mission 2 is top off your ammo. There is a huge amount of fighting immediately off of the ramp in the second mission, and you've got to have ammo for it. So cap off your ammo now, and then go ahead and board, because the second mission is rough. But you beat the second mission, you probably are going to beat the entire Elite Deep Dive. That one is the toughie, and let's go ahead and start talking about it. Right, so Mission 2 of Elite Deep Dive, difficulty's bumped up to Hazard 5, and it looks rather deceptively simple. Just refine some liquid morkite and collect 2 alien eggs. No special modifiers. Oh man, let me tell you, I'm putting my own custom modifier. I'm gonna call it D-Day, because when your drop pod lands in, imagine this. There is an entire Hazard 5 swarm pre-spawned and waiting for you to get out. And they've got support. They've got wardens. They've got artillery. They've got spitball infectors. That's infectors with an S. Multiple spitball infectors. They have a neticite breeder. Note that the breeder wasn't there every single run, but it could be there for you. There was a Mactera grab, right? I guess there was also a Huli hoarder that we totally ignored. There's a cave leech near the refinery, so don't go near the refinery or you're going to get snatched up by the cave leech. And there's a brood nexus in the back of the cave away from the refinery. When you get out of that pod, it is an absolute madhouse. And I really hope you are going to be bringing either an engineer with the lure grenades and or a scout with pheromones. I would bring them both, because they are going to be all over you. You are going to need tools to get them off of you while you clear out the area. So here's my advice. The ramp comes out. Beware, there could be a sandstorm right off the bat. Before you disembark, kill any of the non-respawning enemies that you can. So the neticite breeders, get the spitball infectors. You will not be able to see the brood nexus. It's behind you. You won't be able to see the cave leech. Just don't go near the refinery as it drops. And then after that, when you disembark, you're going to want to call in some ammo, and you're going to want to start luring those enemies, get them off of your allies. If you happen to have someone with good AoE weapons like a flamethrower, or you got like an autocannon, that person should just be mowing down all of the massive hordes of enemies that are going to gather around either the engineer lure or the scout pheromones. The next thing to know is that the first wave is coming on its way. Yes, your first swarm isn't too far away from mission start, and there's a good chance that the swarm might hit before you're done clearing out the initial cave. So I hope you deployed a little bit of ammo, and I hope you put it in a nice place too, because the next wave is coming in. But here's the good news. If you manage to clear out the cave and survive the first wave, you're probably going to win, because the morkite wells themselves are not in an inconvenient place, and after that, the difficulty drops significantly by Hazard 5 standards, mind you. You will still be attacked by massive hordes of enemies. Do not assume because Mission Control did not announce a horde doesn't mean that a normal attack wave, like a battalion of bugs, just decide to show up anyways. So keep your head on the swivel, on the ceiling, because you can get a swarm-like attack wave without announcement. Now, wrapping up the mission, we had the eggs. One of the eggs triggered a swarm for me, the other just triggered a standard attack. Both are substantial and should not be taken lightly. After the eggs, the pipe pumping sequence wasn't too bad. Yes, there were a ton of enemies. It's still Hazard 5, but it wasn't that bad. Just don't let your guard down. You should have plenty of ammo, so use those lures, use those pheromones, keep the enemies off your allies, and you should find that the pumping system goes pretty well with only 2 breakdowns. And congratulations on making this far. You're up to Elite Deep Dive Mission 3. Difficulty is bumped up to a spicy Hazard 5.5. Objective is to collect 200 morkite and recover 1 black box, which is one of those defensive style missions. They're exclusive to the deep dives, but I'm sure you've done one before. It's kind of like salvaging the pod where you got to stay in range of it while it fills up. There is a warning, cave leech cluster, and I'll tell you right now, this mission isn't that bad, but it has a few nasty tricks that can absolutely ruin your run. As long as you can avoid those tricks, you got it in the bag. My first note is, as you travel through the level, you will find these wind-blasting sand tunnels. Beware of those, because you may be forced to retreat, and those things could easily pin you down while the glyphids eat you, so just be aware that that is a possibility of happening. The cave is rather small, though, and you will enter your first large room, where I found 2 cave leeches. There was a moderate-sized battle, still challenging. It is hazard 5.5, but it wasn't that bad. Light up the roof with your scout, knock out the cave leeches, and move on. You'll go through another snaking pathway into the last room. Yes, it's a very small level. This is a very large room where basically all of the objectives are, and there was a nasty trick the game pulled on me, so get ready. First up, this room is full of cave leeches. I counted about 5 spread out. There's also a netesite breeder in there and a bunch of pre-spawned enemies. But there was a trap. An enemy attack came from behind, including an oppressor. Now, it might not happen the same for you, but the oppressor knocked my partner into the cave before we could deal with the cave leeches, and because he was now exposed with no defensive position, the cave leeches got him. I knew I couldn't rescue him though, so I fell back, avoided the blowing sand traps, and what do you know? A Praetorian wave spawned, a full Praetorian swarm, and I got a bulk detonator. However, I called in my ammo and used a ton of pheromone grenades to cluster everything up together, and then I was able to use the bulk detonator to go critical and blow all of them up. Oh my god, they're all gonna blow up right there. Let me get him. Come on, let me go. He's gonna go. Die! 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 Die!
Oh, that was pretty successful. I like it.
After returning, I slowly grinded the enemies down. We had plenty of ammo, so I liberally used my pheromone grenades to keep the enemies off me, lit up the ceiling, neutralized the cave leeches, got my partner back on his feet, and finally we were able to lock down the last room. Once we did that, the mission's difficulty dropped significantly because now all attack waves were spawning rather than preset enemies. Most of the morkite was in this room, and we called in all of our ammo on the black box, ready to deploy all of the shields, all of the pheromone grenades to keep the enemies off us while we defended. The defense really wasn't that painful though, and we extracted to a successful mission at the very end. Now, to conclude with some general advice, I think the star of these deep dives are definitely going to be the driller and the scout. The driller is just so powerful against the dreadnoughts. Extremely strong with the sludge combo, slowing them down, allowing your allies to gun them down quickly and just save so much ammo, and it just makes it so much safer. The scout is going to absolutely shine in the elite deep dive because there's so many enemies. He's going to be able to get away from them. He's going to be able to use those pheromone grenades. I also think that the engineer is going to be quite strong with the lures, and of course the gunner is going to have a role, being able to gun down the enemies with powerful sustained weapons, especially if you've got someone to clump the enemies together with lures or with the pheromones. But without a doubt, I think this is going to be really good for drillers and really good for scouts. The particular perks I'd highly recommend, you definitely want to have Iron Will for that second chance. Remember, you will die again after using Iron Will unless you heal yourself, so you're going to want the Vampire perk because that lets you get 5 health back as long as you kill a ordinary-sized enemy, just like a Glyphid warrior. Just use Iron Will, quick power attack, gets you back up on your feet. Mobility is also very important. You need to be able to outmaneuver the enemies, so make sure you're taking Second Wind, and I also recommend Born Ready, especially if you have weapons that take a while to reload, because it allows you to, instead of reloading, switch to your second weapon, fight for up to 5 seconds, and after the 5 seconds pass, any weapon you're not equipping will automatically reload, allowing you to constantly fight with hardly any pause, sometimes no pause at all. Anyways, let me know what you think down in the comment section. If you have any further questions or if you want any further advice on this particular deep dive or on Deep Rock in general, feel free to ask. I am here to assist, I'm here to teach, I'm here to help people get good, as my namesake suggests. If you want other things included in these weekly guides, let me know, because I'm still working on the template. So, yeah, any feedback is certainly welcome. Anyways, that is that. Remember, if you want to see the live gameplay of me cracking through these deep dives, you can find me on Twitch at GetGoodFox, where I do it every Thursday, and then expect the guide to come out on Fridays. Till next time, though, remember that you don't have to be good to get good.